Greetings, this is Scholar Saunders Singh. What's current? This is my third installment, probably going to be my final installment of the Adolf Hitler uh, AI recreation reviews, or Reconstruction reviews, pardon me. This one concerned he's on his last leg. He was on his way out. He sensed that he knew that the Allies had defeated the Germans handedly, and Normandy, and that the bombing of Dresden and bombing of different areas around that Germany were sealing his fate. But he still had wind beneath his wings. He still was very forceful, very strong-willed. He seemed prophetic, almost, like, in a way. The way he kind of sensed, he knew he was coming to an end during this speech. He was talking about how the German he had to throw in. He didn't talk too much about the Jews, but he had to talk about the Jews. He had to say how the Kremlin Jews were going against the German forces and stuff like that. And it's just despicable language, as all of his rhetoric was. He said, and in the way of the speech, he said superhuman strength. So he was calling upon Nietzsche, or Nietzsche. I have to get that pronunciation right somehow. Nietzsche. He was calling upon him for the superhuman ideal, that kind of thinking. And he brought that out into this speech. He really brought out the emotions and the rigor and the thought processes that were going through his mind at the time. And it was, like I said, it was like he knew that within just a few months he'd be tied like a little coward in a bunker and commit suicide. I can't remember if he used I think he used cyanide pills. I can't remember exactly, but I think he used cyanide pills. And I want to make a correction just in case I go any further. Hugo Boss did not design the SS or the paramilitary uniforms. Hugo Boss manufactured the clothing to make those different things. He was hardly considered during the Nuremberg trials to be of guilt. He was pretty much written off with just a fine, and just went on about his business. And the business, of course, blew up, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, of course, as one of the premier, designing labels. But that's just another example, same thing with Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, supplied the vehicles, they call them Hitler-mobiles nowadays. But Benz is ever, on the lips of rappers and people like that, and they may not know the history of Mercedes-Benz prior to Hitler's rise and after his fall. So just something to grow with. All right. So this speech in particular, it was his final radio broadcast. He didn't have anything else to say after this, publicly. He took upon the people of Germany once again to rile them up and get them excited and have them explore options of how to be the best Germans they can possibly be, and to fight for the effort. And all of it was for naught. Obviously, we know now. I'm armchair historian right now, but all of it was for naught. It was not to be. He did everything in his power to take on the role of someone in power, and he obviously floundered. We can see that now in history books and on TV and movies and shows and stuff like that. But he has this. I don't know what the AI reconstruction does, but it still has that power and that might and that that kind of forceful speech, that forceful address, coming through the microphone and through the speakers. Yeah, I don't know if that's the AI doing that or what. He's not like, yeah, well, we just have another, thing we should do. He wasn't talking like that at all. He's very, demanding and, pounding home his message and, very, forthright. Still, after, this takes place January 3rd, it's 1945. So this is almost a whole year after D-Day. So he's reeling really at this point. He's like, okay, I'm starting to lose power now. They're starting to come for me. They're going to go after me. He seems a little paranoid a little bit. He seems a little paranoid, a little bit, awestruck at the possibility of his imminent demise, and it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. It looks very, very, heavy on his part. It looks kind of, shady. Looks kind of shaky. And he still goes on. He's talking about, the women of Germany, how they can still do things, how the manufacturers, how they can still build and create and do things in the name of the nation. But the whole idea and whole, virtual, thing in a kernel, in a nutshell, I guess you can say, is sacrifice. That's all Hitler stood for, was sacrifice. He said that in all of his. It didn't matter what it was. It was about the sacrifices of the individual to the state. That sums up all of Adolf Hitler, everything he did, all his endeavors, everything he wanted to be. It was sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. And who else says sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice? Christians, which he didn't really declare himself to be outwardly. He might have said, I am a Christian, and I believe in God, but he's not really that, very thick on, the Jesus part, because, Jesus was was obviously a Jew, so he wasn't really too, headstrong on, painting a picture of Jesus of Nazareth as somebody that, to inspire him to lead this country of Germany. I thought it was, I think all these speeches compressed, like I said, is sacrifice. It's a sacrifice of every individual, no matter what they are, no matter who they are, and to the state. That's the scary part. That's the sad, disturbing, disgusting part. That an individual be sacrificed for some quote unquote greater good, some special, idealism, just because they're an individual, just because, it's right for the state to say that you don't have a right to your own life or your own limbs, your own brains, your own mind, your own everything you own. Doesn't matter. It has to be sacrificed to the state. And so I think that's, one of the most evil chapters, obviously, in all of world history. But like in the speech, he says, he talks about the different channels, the 7 million people that are, peasants, and the 7.5 million or 7 million people that are unemployed. And he's talking about, all this can be rearranged if we just put in more of the war effort and we fight for glorious Germany and say all the right things and do the right things and continue on down the war path. And he's very forceful and very. Let me. I had my MacBook in front of me, so I'm just gonna cheat. I can't remember what the word is. I want to make sure I get the right word. Okay, he was virile. He was very virile. He had vim and vigor and vivacity. He had a lot in that going for him. He had those hallmarks of life, but they were, of course, names in death. That's what he was really representing. He represented death. Death of the mind, death of the body, death of the spirit, death of everything. Death of all that is worthy of having. And of course we saw that in the concentration camps. I mean, there's a few to name. I'm not keen on all, the naming of them all. I can't name them all. I can name maybe Buchenwald, And that's about it. I don't want to go into how many different concentration camps there were, but just that example, just the fact that he probably didn't touch one person's forehead. He didn't push over one human being, but his actions, his ideas, his thoughts and his words and movements constituted to millions of innocent people being killed, being brutalized, being starved to death. Who is this? Southside Tony. Can you tell us what the small hats were doing? We're doing topics. The German you meant to piss the Germans off? They didn't do anything but live. They just existed. That's what pissed the Germans off. The fact that they existed as human beings. I think that's what you're saying, to piss the Germans off. I think I know what you mean. You put topics, but I think you meant to say to piss the Germans off. No, it was just the fact that they existed. The fact that they had ideas of capitalism. The idea of changing, having a system of government, not, explicit. They weren't like Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand explained capitalism explicitly as the only moral social system which protects property rights and especially protects individual rights. That's what capitalism is. That's all it is. And I mean, we can say, hand-to-hand, free market, free trade, but that's just a subset. That's just a underlying, part of capitalism. So, that's what pissed the Germans off. That's what pissed Adolf Hitler off. The fact that they, could create wealth, that they could do things that were, beyond his expertise, that were beyond his comprehension, that were beyond his intelligence. That's the reason why he was pissed off by the Jews. So, but in this last speech, I mean, he just lays it out. He lays out the full reality of his utter evil. I mean, he just all the way up to near the end. Just a few months before let me make 100% sure on that. How did Adolf Hitler suicide? How did he commit suicide? I was right. He swallowed cyanide capsules and he shot himself in the head. So he was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure of this. I'm going to make 100% sure of this. We're going to make sure of this. I'm going to take these pills and I'm going to pop myself in the head. So he made sure of that. So that was like the justice. That was justice. That was true justice. But it was sad justice because he should have been brought before Nuremberg and trial. He'd been put on trial. That's the sad thing. But the only justice is that he recognized that he was a failure and that he was an evil despot and that he had nowhere else to go. So like a coward. And not every person who commits suicide is a coward. But he, in his particular situation, he was a coward. So he definitely died the death of a coward. But this speech, it seemed like he was prophetic, though. I don't know. He had little cuts in here, like he was saying how, east parts of Germany will take over. Well, it wasn't right. It wasn't prophetic in the sense of he was right. He didn't turn out to be prophetic, but he's saying how Germany would take over parts of Asia and I have to correct myself on that too, because he wanted parts of Europe and Africa, but also Asia too, because there were I think he said centuries of battle with parts of Asia and stuff like that. That he delineated throughout the speech. But like I said, he didn't really talk too much about the Jews. He had a few points about the Kremlin Jews in Russia. And that's the thing, too, because this was so confusing to me. I hope there's a historian out there, or I'm going to continue to read more books and watch YouTube videos and things of that nature. But explain to me the Russian idea of how they were like they're the three allies: the Americans, the UK or British, and the Russians. And we shouldn't have been allies with the Russians. That was obvious. We should not have been. But at the time, it seemed like that was the best option. Is that am I totally crazy? Am I not right? Please forgive me and correct me if I'm for my ignorance. Let me know. The stream is still going. It's frozen right now. I'm not getting a call, but it's frozen. So I don't know if I'm still going or not. Looks like I'm still going. Okay. It's frozen. I got it. You can tell me I'm frozen, but it looks like the time is still ticking. So as long as the time is still ticking, I'm gonna still keep on kicking. All right. So like I said, I want to know about the Russians because the Russians, like they said, the friend of your friend. I don't know how it goes. The enemy of your enemy is your friend or something like that. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think that's false. I think it's false in virtually every situation. The enemy of your enemy is your enemy. I mean that's what the whole point is. They're all enemies. You have your own allies and you have people behind you. But people that align with evil are evil as well. So your friend, the enemy of your enemy, or even somebody that seems like they'll be your ally, is not really a friend of yours. So that's it for that. I still want to know though. I still want to know about the Russians. I still need. I still. It's like Hitler, 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 Hitler. It's all like, oh, Hitler was horrible, horrible, horrible. What about Stalin? I mean, of course, Hitler obviously is. They were very explicit in their cruelty and their nastiness and their disgustingness and their horrific actions against human beings, against a specific human being, the Jews. Especially, there were Slavs, there were Poles, there were probably a few Africans and different things like that, that were sent to the camps and sent to work, and were gasped, and some probably were burned to death or burned. They were put in a furnace, either as corpses or as live bodies, whatever the case might be. Multiple experiments by Dr. Mengele. I have to pronounce his name right. They were demonstrated on the Jewish population. So those are just a few of the different identities that were the Germans took on as monsters, and you look at it and like I said, I go back to the Russians. What would it have been like if we did not befriend the Russians? Would 50 million people or 100 million people not have starved to death under Stalin? Would that have been the truth? If we had actually fought Russia, would that make sense? Nobody says this. Nobody talks about America fighting Russia. I mean, we get saber rattling and oh well, there's some ships down there near Miami. I don't know what's going on, what's happening. Y'all want to like we getting ready, like going back and forth, like put up your deuce, like what's going on? But we've not had any major fights. We just had the quote unquote Cold War, which was an idea that you can set your wars by temperature. I mean, Ayn Rand discussed this in one of her essays. I can't think of the person. Let me say, person who came up with cold. Bernard Baruch. He coined the term Cold War, but there was someone else. It was Bernard Baruch, but there was someone else against the United States and the Soviet powers. Because there's no larger conflict. Some credit Don Juan Manuel as the person who coined the term Cold War. So it's a few people that are pronounced as the person. The term hot war is also occasionally used by contrast, but remains rare in literature or military theory. But that's what has been spoken about during historical events and in the military itself. But yeah, this speech is it's very telling. It's very telling of where he's going, what he's going to do, what his purpose is, in just a few minutes. Just I don't know how long the speech goes on, but on YouTube it's about 14 minutes and 42 seconds. But yeah, so he's at his wit's end. He knows that he's gonna lose. He knows it. He knows that Germany's gonna lose, and even with his virile language, even with his quote unquote strong language, his strong speech, he's cowering. He's still like, well, we can kind of win it, right, guys? Like, we have the right motives, we have the right mission, we have the right things that we can do. We still can have this, right? Can't we? Like, that's what I got from this. That's the gist that I ascertained from this, that I surmised. It has the ring of somebody that just couldn't face reality. He this is his last gasp of not being able to face reality and truth. This is his final moments of not being able to be a true human being, somebody that represents reason, individualism, and capitalism, and especially the individualism part. Like, he had no conception of an individual. There's I'm gonna try to look for it. I might not get it. I had this almost memorized, but it's been a long time. It's been about a decade. And I'm looking for it right now. I'm looking for it right now. And I'm still looking for it. Oh my God, what is it? It's crazy. It's like, it's all about individual. I'm about to just say, I think I found it. Okay, here it is. It is thus necessary, this is in 1933, that the individual should finally come to realize that his own ego is of no importance in comparison with the existence of the nation. So that just sums up exactly what Hitler was all about. He was not selfish. He was not egoistic. He was not rational. He was a brute. He was a monster. He was a mongrel. He was a terrible human being. Maybe not a mongrel, but he was a monster. He was a monster that had no, reason for living, and that's why, basically, why he offed himself. And that's this speech, is closing in on him. He felt the walls, rising up, all around him, and he was running scared. Either you're running free or you're running scared, and Hitler was running scared. He didn't know what would happen, and none of his top generals, none of his top council, nobody, Goebbels, Himmler, none of them. None of them could save him. None of them. Roz has got a little thing going on. I'm not even going to answer that, sir. He said, I can read the question. He says, "Where is Diddy? Where TF is Diddy?" But that's a question. If you give me $10, I'll answer that question. Height gave me $75 last month to put on $25. He gave me $50 and then $75. So he put up $135. Is that, yeah, $135? $140, excuse me. Is that right? I'm terrible with math. God damn it. 30 what's 25 plus 50? What's 25 plus 50? That's 75. He gave me 75. Then he gave me 50. Yeah, he gave me 75, then he gave me 50. That's $135. Okay. I'm not good with math. Math is woo. I respect people that can do math in their head, and I don't have to do to show my work. I can do it. I have to show work. I have to show everything in my head. I try to do it in my head, but 75 plus 50 is $135. So he's definitely good for the month. So are you good for the month, Rawls? You gotta send in $100 because it's about Adolf Hitler time right now, and this is my final induction into the AI Reconstruction reviews of his speeches. So, get down or lay down. That's all I can say. What else is there? The idealism behind Adolf Hitler was complete. That's the whole thing. It's all theory. It's all ideas. Every single war that's ever been waged for the past 100,000 years was an idea. It was somebody, coming out of the cave. They came out, the cave at the wrong time, and they threw a rock at somebody, and somebody hit them with a rock, and they were squabbling, and somebody was killed. That was the idea. The idea was, they came out the cave at the wrong time or something like that. Well, you fast forward tens of thousands of years. And what do you get? You get World War II, the bloodiest, most terrible, situation in all of human history. Most amount of people died during this time period than in any other time in history. And Adolf Hitler was the poster boy for evil at this time. And there have been arguments that he wasn't the most evil one. That, like I said, like Dr. Mengele and Reinhard Heydrich. Dr. Joseph Mengele and Reinhard Heydrich could be called could be even worse than Adolf Hitler in certain circumstances. That's what we have to, really look at. That's what we have to uncover. We have to really do a deep dive into that legacy of evil and terror. So I think Adolf Hitler really just, sent himself up the river, really. He had without a paddle, too, without oars. Nothing to help him, nothing to save him. He had no way out. There was nothing he could possibly do. Nothing. He had nothing to guide him beyond anything because he never had a moral compass. He gave up such ideals of having a moral compass and having the right to being able to say who he is and what he's about. He represented the lowest forms of really white supremacy, but just white embarrassment to that ethnicity. That's the truth. That's the reality. And by going against the Jews, going against the people especially, that was just like a horrible, horrific, terrible, unconscionable time that We have to know about the documentaries. We have to know about the books. We have to know about all the different footage. I mean, people talk about slavery. Slavery, all we have are, are photos. And there's not a huge movement, or I haven't heard a huge movement that say, anti-slavery, there was no slavery. There was no slavery. But there's people that say there was no, H word. I'm not even going to say it. There was no H word. And, that's just disgusting. Because there obviously was one. And that's what really, propelled people to say it. I mean, there's the people that can say it. Iranians and things like that. People everywhere outside of Germany, basically. Because if you say that in Germany, you're going to jail. Or you're getting a heavy fine. So you got to come to America and wave your Nazi, your Nationalist Socialist flags, and be aware of that. So, all right, second half of the show, not about Hitler, it's about Skylar. My born day is tomorrow. Not to brag, not to boast, not to say anything that you need to say happy born day and stuff like that. That's cool. I'm just saying it is June 21st, 1988. That's when I was born. It's for my deceased mother. It was her day, really. Tony Korn is saying, I hate to tell you. Okay? You hate to tell me what? Yeah, it was for her and for my dad. That's really who it is for. It's not for me, really. I had no control over it. I had nothing to do with it. But I'll take, I give presents, it's my family. For my family and friends, it's for, I give them gifts and things like that on their birthdays. And then they get some of the people that are in my family give me gifts on my birthday. But it doesn't go any further than that, because what is a birthday? I mean, you can celebrate a day, but that's not, beyond, what you really are, because you don't have, like I said, you don't have a choice over it. It's not chosen. It's not a rational kind of a thing. But it's. I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it for other people. I'm not saying, I'm not a national socialist against birthdays, but what I'm saying is that I don't view it in the same way, because I was enlightened by Mr. Troy Star Terrain, who doesn't celebrate his birthday, but he tells people about his born day. He tells people about his born day because of the fact that he's, a man of rational ideals. He's able to say, I don't really have to celebrate a day in order to recognize, because what do? I recognize the day every day. That same amount of, joy and happiness and, oh, yeah, it's your birthday, it's your day. Why not have that every day? What's stopping you? What is the impediment? What is the real, thing that is against that? What goes against that whole ideal? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to see in the world today. Some cultures don't even celebrate birthdays. I think Seventh Day Adventists, or who are the guys? The Watchtowers and the Wakes. The Seventh Day Adventists, and then there's hold on. I gotta look it up. Watchtower. Oh my God. Jehovah's Witness. That's it. Jehovah's Witness. And I think Seventh Day Adventists don't celebrate birthdays. I'm looking it up right now. It says, yes, Seventh-day Adventists celebrate birthdays. Okay. So that's a good correction. The Seventh-day Adventist Church is a worldwide Protestant Christian denomination with over 25 million members in 212 countries. Adventists believe that God gave us the best birthday present ever, which is a day of uninterrupted time spent with Him, which they call the Sabbath. The Sabbath is celebrated from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset. Okay. So it's Jehovah's Witnesses They don't. They that I know of. Let me make sure about that. Jehovah's Witnesses do not celebrate birthdays because they believe that birthday celebrations have pagan origins. This is the hatred. This is beautiful. Thank you. Who is that? 46 Bloom. Is that right? 46 Bloom. So yeah, so it's not Seventh-day Adventists, it's Jehovah's Witnesses. They also believe that evil spirits and influences can attack people during their birthdays, and that early believers did not celebrate their birthdays. Additionally, Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Christians should only commemorate death, not birth, because the Bible teaches that the day of death is better than a birthday. This is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. That Jehovah's Witnesses are just, it's like they're on a race. Everybody in faith are on a race. They're on a race to death. Because everybody wants to know just what they said, because the Bible teaches that the day of death is better than a birthday. It's explicit in the Bible, that according to Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's the thing with all faiths. They have all confusions, and they have similarities, and they have, well, we have this, but we don't have that. We have that, but we don't have this. And it all just mixes and mashes up, and we try to make something, and, well, we'll just find out when we die. That's basically all they can have. That's all they can do, is just basically see when they die what happens. Not worried about, not concerned with life and enjoying life and doing things in life and being creative and being driven and being builders and movers and shakers and thinkers and loving and enjoying and having sex and doing things like that. All that is discarded for the idea of death. All of that is discarded. I even have, I go to a church and the pastor says, we come to you in prayer. He says, we come to you without virtue, without, values, without anything like that. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? What's he talking about now? What's this about? He's not having virtues or values. What's that? It's goofy. But that's what I'm talking about. I'm not with Jehovah's Witnesses, and I don't celebrate my birthday because of that same reason. I celebrate because it's a rational ideal. It's rational to understand the fact that you don't have to celebrate your birthday. I recognize others that do, just like Jehovah's Witnesses probably do too, because the majority of people in the world and across many cultures celebrate their birthday. It's celebrated in movie and film and TV and books and things like that. All over the place. People, the National Cancer Society or something like that? They are they have a copyright on Cancer Society. Let me see. Birthdays. American Cancer Society, the official sponsor of birthdays. This is what gets me too, because it's like the other different sect, SECT, of Christianity, Jesus Christ, the scientist or something, was it? I always forget it. I don't know. Hold on. Jesus Christ. Church of Christ scientists. They don't believe in, modern day medicine or anything like that. They don't believe in anything that can continue your life. If you're gonna die, then you're just gonna die. That's the Church of Christ scientists. Or the Church of Christian Science. So they have sanatoriums but they don't have hospitals. That I know of. That's what I'm seeing right now. In San Francisco and Chestnut Hills, Massachusetts, have the world's only official Christian Science sanatoriums, but any scientist may set up a sanatorium or a nursing home to be operated on the principles of their mother church, governed only by state law. See, this is just, it just gets messy, child. It gets messy. This whole, we're all in a big, colander of, just backwardness and ridiculousness and just mumbo jumbo and just horror. It's horrific. All of it. All of it's horrific. So we have to be on guard for things like this, because that's what it is. I'll be celebrating my 36th birthday. It ain't no coincidence that my age is a kilo. Who said that? I'll tell you, it was Jay-Z on the Rick Ross Hustlin' remix with Young Jeezy. Ricky Ross, Young Jeezy, we owns the scene. Stop playing with my lane, with me lames, y'all not my equal. It ain't no coincidence that my age is a kilo. That's all I'm gonna say, because I'm not trying to get any fines from Mr. Sean Carter anytime soon. So not trying to get anything against him, but my age is a kilo. I'm 36 ounces, 36 O's. That's a kilo. 36. I mean, he said that, and I'm like, he's what, 54, 55 right now, something like that. He's gonna be 55 in December. Yeah, he'll be 55 in December. So we have to be very careful about this. Have to be very careful about this. But yeah, so my age is a kilo. That's it's just a reality. I mean, I'm getting older. I'm closer to death. That's what Pink Floyd says, right? Shorter of breath, and one day closer to death. I mean, I'm not worried about it. I'm more concerned with life. I'm sucking all the juices and the bone marrow out of life. That's what I'm doing. I'm keen on that. That's what I'm focused on. I'm not worried about death. I'm not worried about somebody saying that they went to a cross and died and really was probably just a post, and saying all these different things, saying that you get 72 virgins in heaven, in Jenna, I think it's called, or something like that. I'm not worried about all that. I'm worried about this earth, this place where I am right now in the United States of America, in Delaware, the first state. I mean, I'm poised. I'm in position to be in the greatest existence ever. I have no control over that. I can control it now, but at the beginning, I had no control over that when my parents birthed me. I was born on the Dover Air Force Base in Dover, Delaware in 1988, June 21st. I had no control over that, but that set me up for a lot of things. I could technically be president right now. I'd be a horrible candidate, and I would never be able to be elected, because I'll get, 20 votes maybe, tops. Depending on, how many people responded to my ideas about selfishness. Whoa, we can't be selfish. What's going on here? No. So that's not even close. We're not even close to being able to understand that. So we have to really understand how the mechanics of life work, rather than just one day that you spend focusing on who you are and what you're about. That's a different token altogether. that's a different way of displaying yourself in a different realm. So we have to really hone in on the fact that there are various people, there are various, people that would challenge people's ideals and their thoughts, and have a sense of not being able to understand reality. But I think and I know that there is no God, there is no heaven, there is no hell. All that exists in earth. We are gods. Every human being is a god. Every person has potential to make, create something somehow. Even people with Down syndrome. And you would have, was it either Tolstoy or Dostoevsky, one of the great Russian writers. He really represented, maybe it was Dostoevsky. It might have been Dostoevsky. He said, he elevated the idiot, the person with the low IQ, the person with the low intelligence, and not even Dostoevsky or Tolstoy. I think it was in the Russian culture. They elevated the retarded person. I said the R word, but I'm saying it not jokingly, but just truthfully. The person that was slow. That's the thing that's weird anyway. We can say, oh, he's slow. He's a slow person. We can't say, oh, he's retarded. Like, you can't say, it means the same goddamn thing. Slow and retarded are the same goddamn word. Look it up. Look what retarded means, and look up what slow means in that regard. It's the same exact goddamn definition. So we have to, be aware of that as well. I think it's incumbent upon us to be aware of the fact that, all of us as human beings have some potential. There's probably some people with ALS and what is? Let me see. What is the disease that Steven? Yeah, he had ALS and he lived a long life, pretty much. He lived longer than most people did. He lived past 70. He was not expected to see his 25th birthday. And he lived past 70. And he could communicate. He could communicate with people through computer systems. That was beautiful. That was wonderful. Sad, but, he had some kind of way of expressing himself through his disease, going past his disease, surpassing his disease, fighting it, always going for life. That's the beauty of it. That's what we should say. We shouldn't call them birthdays. We should call them life days. Because you have no control over your birth. Like Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand was born in Russia. That's an example of hell frozen over. Literally. Like, it was one of the worst places to ever live of all time, ever, still to this day. And for any people to create a alcoholic drink from potatoes and name it after water, they just said, what are we going to call this? And they said, and this is my terrible Russian accent, I don't know, Vladimir. Call it vodka. Doesn't that mean water? Yes, it means water. Vodka. They'll love it. That's my terrible Russian accent. That's all you're gonna get. Greg S., you're going a little too far now. Let's slow it down. I'm not even gonna repeat your question, but let's slow it down. But yeah, she came from Russia. But like I said, she should have been born in the United States of America. That's one of the greatest ironies of all time in human history. That Ayn Rand would be born in the place that was totally against reason, individualism, and capitalism. Completely anathema. Completely against it. So she immigrated, came to the United States, and lived her life. That's the thing. That's what, you have warriors that, survive horrific, and terrible gun battles, firefights, and bombings and roadside bombs and IEDs and stuff like that. They call them, those days that they survived, alive days. Their alive days they have two main days of their existence: their birthday and their alive day. Well, I said there should be a third day, and minus the birthday, it should just be two, I guess. And it should be live day or life day. Your life day, the day that you recognize that you are a person, and the day that you recognize that you were going to be a example of a human being, righteous in your own mind, having your own ethical standards and your own morality. That's the kind of person I would say should have. That's the kind of thing we should have in our lives. I didn't think that was such a nice Russian accent. It was okay. It kind of slipped into a little bit into a Spanish. Kind of slipped into a Spanish a little bit. I don't know how it went from Russian to Spain, but yeah. Um, yeah. So I say life day. Tomorrow's my life day. The day that I recognize, I reclaim my birthday and say it's my life day. That's how I view it as. It's a special day for me to recollect on the fact of my accomplishments, of my achievements, of my goals, of what I want to do, what I strive to do, what I want to build, what I want to create, what I want to make. As selfish and greedy as I want to be, that's the kind of day I am. Gregor says, "Well, you are a Rican, so I'm not a Dominican anymore. I'm a PR. Okay, I'm not a Dominican. I'm a PR now. Excuse me for a moment." Act like cook crack. All right. So, I was saying, in conclusion, I'm only gonna go for an hour, even though I took a break. Life Day. I like that. I just thought of that. A life day. You know, turn your birthday into a life day. You may not be worthy of your birthday. You could be a terrible human being, and you have a birthday. That's just your birthday, but you don't have a life. If you're a monster, if you're an ogre, if you're a terrible human being, you don't have a life. If you're taking other people's lives, like Jeffrey Dahmer or Muhammad Atta, or you know, what's his name? Can't think of his name. I'm still trying to find it. Colin Ferguson. They call him a freedom fighter, but hey, he didn't have a life. He killed 6 people. He didn't have a life. So, live day. My life day is tomorrow. They call it your birthday, your born day. I'm gonna from now on call it my life day. That's the day that I chose to be, you know, a rational human being. Not on this day, but you know, since my birth, I have chosen to become a rational human being, somebody that has virtues and values, and will continue to fight for those values, no matter what, no matter who's standing in my way. And I would, like I said with let me try to think of his name. Look at this for me. Patrick Henry. Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death. That's the idealism that I will live by forever. For a moment, I appreciate you all for tuning in, and I'll probably still see you tomorrow on my born day, or my life day, I should say. Take care.